Hi, I'm Dr. Tracey Marks, a psychiatrist, and I make mental health education videos. Empathy is the ability to see something from someone else's perspective. Empathy helps you feel connected to people and helps people feel connected to you. Some of the personality disorders like borderline personality and narcissistic personality have one of their core features as lack of empathy. It's not that hard to recognize when someone is overly self-focused and therefore not very concerned about your needs, but there are more subtle ways that you can show a lack of empathy, and here are 4 of them. The first one is one-upping. You can do this when someone shares a disappointing or hurtful experience and you jump in with your experience that was worse than theirs. So I say, my dog died today, and you say, something must be in the air because my cousin died last week. Dog, cousin. I guess I'm done. You may think that you're empathizing with me because you're telling me an experience that you had that was similar, and I may feel some kinship because of this. But if your experience is much worse than mine, your response can leave me feeling like I'm making something out of nothing, and I just need to go sit down. So instead of winning the whose experience was worse game, just say something like, oh man, I'm sorry, or ask more details about what happened. Get them to share more. Number 2 is shutting things down. This is when you give a response that closes off the opportunity for the other person to tell you more about what they were experiencing. An example of this is, I say, I had a rough time getting started today. Now, there's no details there. You really don't know what I'm talking about. But you follow up with, oh, that's a shame. Sorry to hear about that. And that's the end of that conversation. If you're talking to a person who's somewhat reserved and doesn't normally reveal everything about themselves, sometimes they will test the waters by giving you a little information to see how you respond. Are you interested in hearing more about this? Can I bend your ear on this one? I don't want to bore you with details if you're not interested. So when I tell you about how something made me feel without many details about what happened, and you don't ask for any details before you give your closing statement of, oh, well, that's a shame, sorry, I'm left feeling like you probably don't want to hear the details, so I'll move on. Now, you may say, well, I don't want to pry. If you wanted to tell me more, you would. If you leave out details, I assume it's because you don't want to talk about it. But if I didn't want to talk about it, I wouldn't have brought it up at all. You may think, why should I have to pull things out of you? You don't if you don't want to know more. But understand that some people will give you breadcrumbs at first because they're inhibited about talking about themselves, and they want to get permission to give you more information. The way you give them permission is to ask for more details. That could be as simple as, why? What happened? If the person doesn't want you to know more and just wants to publicly declare their frustration with no follow-up conversation, then they'll say something like, oh, it's nothing. Then you can move on, but at least you showed interest, and that matters. Number 3 is storytelling. This is where you respond to someone's statement by telling them about your experience. This is similar to one-upping, but you're not focusing so much on the experience being worse than theirs. Instead, you're hijacking the conversation with a long story about yourself. So I say, can you believe that I was standing in line to pay for groceries and this person in another line jumped in front of me saying that they should go first because they were waiting longer than me? You say, oh yeah, there was a story on the news today talking about how as a nation, we're so impatient. In fact, I made a Facebook post on this and blah, 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 the story goes on. By the time you're finished, we're talking about public policy, and it feels silly for me to go back and try and bring up my grocery store experience. I may not even remember what I wanted to tell you about it. The net result, I feel very unsatisfied that I didn't get a chance to vent and have someone listen to me. An empathic statement could have been, I hate when people do that, or what did you do? Did you let them jump in front? With that, I know that you're listening and you're right there with me in this conversation. Number 4 is educating, advising, or fixing. This is where you respond to someone's statement with unsolicited advice or solutions. If you're always coming from a position of authority and knowledge, you may demonstrate how wise you are, but you can make yourself unrelatable. For example, I say, it took me 2 hours to get downtown. I almost missed the show. You say, well, you should have checked the app to see which route to take. Now, I'm just venting. I don't want to be made to feel stupid. But you may think, but I just want you to know that there's a better way to travel so you don't have to experience this again. So a more empathic response is, I'm glad you still made it. Have you ever used Waze or maps to see traffic patterns? With this response, you're recognizing the positive outcome that I arrived on time even though it was frustrating. Then by asking if I used an app, you're giving me the benefit of the doubt that maybe I don't know about it. You're also continuing the conversation by asking a question of me rather than chastising me with a statement that I should have known about or used the app. You may be wondering, how can I know what to say to people without having to memorize these responses? Well, there's a theme to these responses. The theme is to be curious and ask questions to get more details about what the person experienced. Resist statements that criticize or show judgment. If they ask for your opinion or help, give it, but if not, don't. At least not immediately. You're not trying to teach someone something. If you want to connect to their experience, you have to hear about it and understand it. Try and place yourself in the scene as if it were happening to you. It may be something that's completely out of your league or lived experience, and that's okay. You don't need to have it have happened to you, nor do you need to agree with the way that the person handled it. You just need to get as close as you can to seeing the experience from their perspective by listening intently and asking questions. Then the last thing that you can do to show that you were listening is to repeat what they said for clarification. You can say things like, did I hear you right when you said this happened? Or, so you're saying you don't have any money left from your last paycheck? Questions like this give you a chance to say something and shows the person that you were listening when they hear parts of their story repeated back to them. Watch this video for more on establishing better connections through conversation. Thanks for watching. See you next time.